Will AI improve our lives or exterminate the species? What would it take to abolish poverty? Are you eating enough fermented foods? These are some of the questions we've tackled recently on The Next Big Idea. I'm Rufus Griscom, and every week I sit down with the world's leading thinkers for in-depth conversations that will help you live, work, and play smarter. Follow The Next Big Idea wherever you get your podcasts.
From LinkedIn News, I'm Jessie Hempel, host of the Hello Monday podcast. Start your week with the Hello Monday podcast. We'll navigate career pivots. We'll learn where happiness fits in. Listen to Hello Monday with me, Jessie Hempel, on the LinkedIn Podcast Network or wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome to the American Negotiation Institute's podcast, where we will teach you the skills you need to get more out of life. And now your host, Kwame Christian.
Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Negotiate Anything. I'm Kwame Christian. I'm a business lawyer by trade, but my passion lies in teaching you the keys to persuasion and conflict resolution. This podcast is part of the American Negotiation Institute, where we do business consulting, training, and one-on-one coaching for people who want to communicate more confidently and persuasively. Check out our website to learn more. Negotiate Anything is sponsored by FreshBooks, a ridiculously easy-to-use cloud accounting software for small business owners that saves you time and gets you paid faster. It's used by over 10 million people worldwide, and because you're a listener, you can try it out for free. To get your 30-day trial, go to freshbooks.com/negotiate and enter Negotiate Anything in the How Did You Hear About Us section. I've put a link in the description for easy access. It is time for another solo episode, but before we jump into the content, I want to give you a quick reminder that the TEDx talk that I did on October 20th should be coming out the first week of December. So keep an eye out for that. I'll definitely let you know if you're on the newsletter, and I'll make an announcement in the next episode, but keep an eye out for that. I'm really excited about it. It turned out really well. At least I hope the video turned out well too. Another announcement, I'm bringing back the free coaching calls. I had a lot of fun with those calls. I got to talk to listeners all over the world, really, as far as Australia, New Zealand, Peru, and all over the United States. It was really cool connecting with all of you. So I'm going to put a link right back in the description here. So if you want to do a call because you have something you're dealing with, or you have a question for me, or you just want to network, that's all cool. There is a link there, and you can just click the link there and schedule with me directly on my calendar. And I think lots of people think I'm joking when I say that, but no, I'm 100% serious. I love talking to you all. And also give me suggestions too, because some of the best things about this podcast, the majority of the best things about this podcast have come from your feedback, either through the reviews or on these calls, or LinkedIn, of course. So keep on connecting with me through LinkedIn or these calls, whichever one. I just want to hear from you. And lastly, if you have found anything that I have ever said on this show to be helpful or at least moderately entertaining, please leave a review. That is so critical for the growth of the show, and it really makes my day when I get to see those reviews. So for those of you who have already left a review or a 5-star rating, thank you, and thank you in advance for the listeners who are going to leave one now after this reminder. All right, let's get into it. My goal with this episode is to share my personal negotiation philosophy. And I want to do this because we usually either have a guest sharing their experience or their skills on the show, or in the solo episodes that I've done in the past, it's usually a deep dive into a specific skill. Regardless of whether it's a solo episode or an interview-based episode, the goal is to try to maintain a narrow focus in order to give you the depth necessary to make the information that we share actionable. And today we're going to change it up because we are going to expand the focus. We're going to have a broader view, and we're going to talk about my negotiation philosophy. And as a reminder, my goal for the podcast in general is to empower you to engage in difficult conversations and negotiation and manage conflict effectively. And the reason I want to do that is because I realize that a lot of times when it comes to the negotiation materials that are out there, we're giving recipes to people who are afraid to get in the kitchen. And if your barrier is internal, if you're too afraid or you're feeling too much anxiety when it comes to these conversations and it's crippling you, then the strategies don't even matter because you're not having the conversations. So the first goal is to empower you to actually step up and have those difficult conversations, because the best things in our lives often exist on the other side of conflict. And that's why I want you to be willing to have these conversations, because negotiations and conflicts are a reality of life. And if you are able to master this skill, it takes you closer to living the best version of your life. The second reason I have the podcast is to give you practical tools that are rooted in psychology to help you be more persuasive and resolve disputes more effectively. So my trade is law. I'm a lawyer, and I also mediate as well. With the American Negotiation Institute, that's where I'm focusing on the negotiation consulting and getting out there and doing trainings for different professionals. But my first academic love was psychology. My degree is in psychology, and I am obsessed with the topic to this day. So with the show, I don't just want to tell you what works. I want to explain why things work, because once you understand the psychological underpinnings of persuasion, it makes you a lot more creative, because now you can start to create strategies and tactics off the fly because you know what's happening beneath the surface. So let's get into the meat of this episode now. And of course, this is my legal background. We are going to start with an outline. So we're going to keep it organized. First, we're going to define negotiation. We need to have an operational definition that we all share to make sure that we are on the same page. We're going to cover what a negotiation is and why talking about the definition is important. And then the second thing we're going to talk about today is my overall theory of negotiation and the most powerful tool at your disposal when operating under this theory of negotiation. Let's get started. So first, my definition of negotiation. What is a negotiation? For the purposes of this podcast and any other training you see me do, a negotiation is any conversation where one or more of the people in the conversation want something. And the reason I love this definition is because it is incredibly broad. Utilizing this definition, you realize that negotiation is everywhere around you. You cannot go 24 hours without negotiating. It's almost impossible. And so now the reason I like this definition of a negotiation is because it helps you improve your negotiation awareness. Imagine for a moment if you were a boxer. You were the most skilled boxer in the world, but you had one weakness. You didn't know when a fight began. That would be really problematic. It wouldn't even matter how good you are in that situation because you don't even know when you should utilize the skills. And what you'll find here, once you adopt this broader perspective on negotiation, is that you'll recognize negotiation is all around you. And once you are able to recognize those signals, you'll know when to utilize the skills that you learn in this show. And now I hear some of you saying, well, do I want to negotiate with my colleagues at work every day, or my spouse, or my significant other, or my friends? The answer is yes, absolutely, you do. And here's why. The reason why you want to negotiate with everybody and negotiate anything is because there are three goals of negotiation. The first goal is to use negotiation offensively to get more of what you want. The second goal is to use negotiation defensively, and that helps you to avoid things that you don't want, and things like conflict resolution and negotiating prices downward would be here. The third goal of negotiation is to strengthen relationships. You're not going to use each of these goals or strategies in each negotiation. You need to play it by ear and figure out what works best. If you're negotiating with a significant other, you can see a conversation as simply an opportunity to gain understanding. And in that situation, your goal is to strengthen the relationship. So you can use negotiation in the most mundane of circumstances. And when we realize how often you can negotiate, you'll realize how much value you've left on the table throughout your entire life. But you also see the myriad opportunities to get more of what you want, avoid things you don't want, and strengthen relationships for the rest of your life. Negotiation is powerful, and that's one of the things that I want to impress upon you through this podcast. You can use it every day with everyone that you meet. Now let's move on to my theory of negotiation. And now just a disclaimer for the nerds out there. Yes, I realize that this theory, as I call it, is closer to a metaphor and borderlines on an allegory, but I say theory because most people would understand it colloquially as a theory. So my theory on negotiation is called the light theory of negotiation, Light theory of negotiation. So this is the way I think about these negotiations, whether it's a negotiation or a conflict or just a difficult conversation. This is the way I think about it. So imagine you are in a house. You've never been in this house before, and you've entered a room. You don't know what's inside the room, but you know it's massive, but it's dark, just pitch black. You cannot see anything. And so what is the first thing you want to do? If your goal is to get to the other side of the room, what is the first thing you want to do? It's turn on the lights. That is going to be objective number one. We need to turn on the lights. But you realize that it's not just one big light switch. There are various lights that illuminate different parts of the room. So you're not just going to run into the room with reckless abandon because you risk hurting yourself. There might be obstacles there. You could get hurt. You might run into somebody that you don't see. Then you could hurt somebody else. There's too much risk. So the obvious answer is to turn on the lights and turn on as many lights as possible so the room is illuminated so you can navigate through the room with confidence and in safety.
Before we finish up this episode, I have a few questions for you. Does your job do professional development training? Are you looking for a workshop for your next conference? Does your profession require effective communication or dispute resolution? If so, a negotiation training seminar might be what you need. I've had the opportunity to do these trainings around the country, and I'd love to swing by your neck of the woods. Our customized negotiation seminars are as fun as they are informative. You'll not only discover the keys to negotiation and persuasion, you'll also have the opportunity to practice these skills in a safe environment with a negotiation simulation. And at the end of the seminar, you'll be able to communicate confidently, resolve disputes effectively, and get what you want out of your next negotiation. And as an added bonus, if you let us know far enough in advance, we can get these trainings certified for continuing education credits. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn or shoot me an email to learn more.
Hey you, I'm Andrew Seaman. Do you want a new job? Or do you want to move forward in your career? Well, you should listen to my weekly show called Get Hired with Andrew Seaman. We talk about it all, and it's waiting for you, yes you, wherever you get your podcasts.
Brace the rudders! Raise the sails! Raise the sails!
Captain, an unidentified ship is approaching. Over.
Roger. Wait, is that an enterprise sales solution?
Reach sales professionals, not professional sailors. With LinkedIn ads, you can target the right people by industry, job title, and more. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Get started today at linkedin.com/marketer. Terms and conditions apply.
Here on Negotiate Anything, we teach you how to make difficult conversations easier. Our sponsor, FreshBooks, is all about making the dreaded, difficult, day-to-day admin and paperwork easier for small business owners. FreshBooks has devoted 14 years to transforming those feelings of dread into delight, and it's been working. They've been able to do this by creating a ridiculously easy-to-use cloud accounting software program, and they've helped millions of people feel more organized, work smarter, and get paid faster. With FreshBooks, you can fire off an invoice in less than 30 seconds. You can set up online payments with 2 clicks and even track expenses on the fly, and that is just a glimpse of what FreshBooks can do for you. As someone who hates paperwork, I can tell you that FreshBooks is the go-to platform if you want to drastically minimize and simplify your paperwork. And I have some good news. FreshBooks is now offering an unrestricted, free 30-day trial to all listeners of Negotiate Anything. And all you have to do is go to freshbooks.com/negotiate and enter Negotiate Anything in the How Did You Hear About Us section. And now, back to the show. So how does this metaphor apply to negotiation? So in a negotiation, there's a lot of information that we don't have. And that's what makes negotiation really scary. It's the unknown, and we feel like we don't have control. And when you really analyze human psychology, you realize that the majority of times when it comes to a fear or a phobia, that fear is associated with a lack or a perceived lack of control that makes us feel uncomfortable. Bringing this back to the metaphor, how do we turn on the lights in a negotiation? We do this through the acquisition of information. Now, before the negotiation, we can acquire more information and start to turn on the lights in the conversation before the conversation even happens. And we do that through systematic preparation. So if you go to AmericanNegotiationInstitute.com/guide, GUIDE, you can get a free guide that'll show you how to systematically prepare for a negotiation. And it also has our most popular guides, the Salary Negotiation Guide, the Conflict Resolution Guide, and the General Negotiation Preparation Guide. Check that out because it'll walk you through how to prepare for those difficult conversations that you're going to encounter in life. There are a number of studies that have shown that the people who take the time to prepare the most thoroughly for negotiations do better in negotiation simulations in the lab. And the only distinguishing factor in these scenarios between the person who is negotiating side A versus side B is the amount of time they took to prepare. So thorough preparation is one way to turn on the lights before the negotiation even begins. So how do we turn on the lights after the negotiation has begun? Because no matter how much we prepare, there's still going to be information that is not publicly available. There's going to be information that we can only get if the other person shares it with us. They are the people who have the ability to turn on the lights. So how do we get them to turn on the lights? And if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you'll know the answer. It's by asking open-ended questions. When you ask those questions, people will share their information, and now you can use that information to navigate through the conversation safely and effectively. And now I'm going to share with you the most powerful tool at your disposal when it comes to actually navigating that difficult conversation. And this is something that I share in the TED Talk. You can think of it kind of like a mantra that you can use to guide you in these conversations, and it's called compassionate curiosity. Now, when I say compassion, I'm saying empathetic concern for the situation of the person with whom you are speaking. And when I say curiosity, I mean the genuine desire to learn more. And now the insertion of the word genuine here is very, very, very important because a lot of times people ask questions just so they can trap people, also known as gotcha questions. So you ask these questions and you set up your witty retort just so you can crush them and gain an advantage. That's not what we're trying to do here. You want to have genuine curiosity and genuine empathy, and you want to be guided by those two things. So a lot of times when you have these conversations, you're going to learn information that you didn't have before. On top of that, people are unpredictable. They might respond with hostility or aggression that you weren't anticipating. And most people struggle in those types of situations. When I think about the people that I've worked with in one-on-one coaching or in my seminars that I do, a lot of times people ask, well, what if the person's a jerk? And what if they keep being jerks? What do we do then? And the answer, of course, depends on the circumstance. And I can have a series of episodes, obviously, dealing with this in depth. But what I want to do here is show how just thinking about that mantra, compassionate curiosity, can help you in those situations where you have been caught off guard. So in those situations, what you want to do is you want to take your time and think about how you would respond in a way that would be considered compassionately curious. So for instance, think in your mind, who is somebody that is compassionate? Who is the embodiment of compassion? Now, when I ask this question, a shocking amount of times when I say this, the person says Mother Teresa. Maybe you were thinking about her too. And then curious. What does curiosity look like to you? For me, when I think about somebody who's curious, I think about a child who's asking a lot of questions. not to annoy you, although it has that impact at times. They're asking it because they genuinely want to know. They're legitimately curious. So what I try to do is when I am having a conversation and I'm not exactly sure what I need to do next, because typically what I like to do is pre-think a lot of the negotiations. So I know what I'm going to say and do and how I'm going to respond to different scenarios. But obviously I cannot anticipate everything. So in those situations where the information that I've received or the situation I find myself in is different from what I've anticipated, I can use this mantra of compassionate curiosity. Now, a lot of times, like I said, going back to the example of hostility, if somebody responds with hostility to you, the natural response is to either respond with fight, flight, or freeze. You either freeze up like a deer in the headlights, or you run away, you cut the conversation short and leave, or you respond with force. Now, neither of those natural evolutionary responses are going to be very helpful, and that's where compassionate curiosity comes in. And so you can filter what you say through those images in your head of who is compassionate and who is curious. Blend those together and come up with an open-ended question that shows empathy and shows a genuine desire to learn. Something like this. I want to make sure that you feel heard in this conversation. What are your biggest concerns? The mantra of compassionate curiosity helps to adjust your tone in a way that keeps the conversation productive. And blending this with the idea of the theory, the light theory of negotiation, helps you to maintain an effective negotiator's mindset throughout the conversation. One of my main goals with this approach is to create a mindset within you that allows you to negotiate with less pressure. Because what you'll see here with this light theory of negotiation is that the impetus isn't on you to come up with a brilliant oration. This is an approach to negotiation that helps to minimize pressure and risk. We're turning on the lights so you can navigate effectively, and we are working with our counterpart on the other side of the table, whether it's a dinner table or a conference table, to work together to turn on the lights so everyone can navigate through this room safely. That's the goal. So I want you to keep this approach in mind as we go on and get deeper into the topic of negotiation. We have some really great episodes coming up with a diverse group of guests from a variety of different fields, and I know you're going to enjoy it. So thank you again for listening. I hope you all have a great Thanksgiving, and I will see you next week.
Hey, thanks for listening to this week's episode. Are you finding this information helpful? If you are, make sure to subscribe and leave a review. I look at every single review, and knowing that this content is helpful is what fuels my passion. Negotiate Anything is now the top-ranked negotiation and conflict resolution podcast in the nation, thanks to awesome listeners like you. We are creeping up on 200,000 downloads, and we have listeners in 140 countries. So thank you for your continued support. Lastly, if you haven't yet, please reach out and connect with me on LinkedIn. Everyone who connects with me gets a personal message from me eventually. It takes time because I've been getting a lot more. I think I have 200 new invites to go through, but I want to keep hearing from you because it's your feedback and suggestions that made the show what it is today. So keep those suggestions coming, and LinkedIn is the best way to reach out to me. Thank you again for listening, and I will catch you in the next one.